if you stay on the daylight saving time that we use in the summer, then sunrise in a lot of East Coast cities in December is like 9 a.m.
Right.
And so, children waiting for the bus, the sun isn't up yet. And people hate that even more than they hate resetting their clocks.
You've reached American History Hotline. You ask the questions, we get the answers. Leave a message.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.
T-Mobile is reinventing business internet with super broadband. Whether you run a small office or a factory of 500, connection is everything. Powered by America's fastest 5G internet, plus Starlink. Super broadband from T-Mobile reaches every zip code in the U.S. Super broadband, a new era of business internet. Visit superbroadband.com to learn more.
Fastest 5G network based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data 2H 2025. Speeds vary due to local network characteristics and management. Satellite requires hardware installation. Clear view of the sky with 36-month commitment.
If data management is slowing down your business,
you need the Intuit ERP. If one entity is here, and one here, and one here, and one here, you need the Intuit ERP. If scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that consolidates, migrates, and automates, all in one place. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
This is Tab Ramos from Inside American Soccer. The Cup Knockout Round is now, and DraftKings has you covered for every single match. The DraftKings app is now available in all 50 states and includes all markets, bringing the game straight to your fingertips wherever you are. New DraftKings customers, sign up with code DK1, spend $5 to get $200 in rewards within 21 days. That's code DK1 in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Bet with DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, bet tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Void in Canada. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk of loss. Availability varies. Bet to get bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Trade to get $50 in predictions dollars that expire in 1 year. Issued every 7 days via click-to-claim for 21 days. One non-withdrawable reward redeemable. Predictions offer void in New York. July 19th. Terms at dkng.co/audio.
Aging is real, and so are the benefits of adding Vital Proteins collagen peptides to your daily routine. New Vital Proteins collagen sparkling water. Your daily glow up now in 3 fresh flavors: strawberry blossom, lemon lime, and blood orange. Improved skin health in as little as 30 days thanks to collagen peptides. Cheers to that. Or go with our classic collagen peptides so you can stay vital, stay you. Visit vitalproteins.com to learn more and where to buy. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey there, American History Hotliners. Bob Crawford here. Thrilled to be joining you again for another episode of American History Hotline, the show where you ask the questions. And the best way to get us a question is to record a video or a voice memo on your phone and email it to americanhistoryhotline@gmail.com. That's americanhistoryhotline@gmail.com. Okay. Today's question is something that's a little divisive. I don't know how divisive it is, but we're about to find out. Here to help me answer the question is Chad Orzel. He's author of the book, A Brief History of Timekeeping, The Science of Marking Time from Stonehenge to Atomic Clocks. He's also an associate professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Union College in Schenectady, New York. Chad, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Chad. Our question comes from Donna in Stockton, California. She wants to know, why the heck do we still have daylight saving time? And why can't we get rid of it?
So the question of daylight saving time is really, it's a question of priorities, right? There are 2 things that daylight saving time accomplishes. One is it ensures that the sun rises relatively early in the winter. So it's not sunrise at 9 a.m. as it would be in my area if we were on daylight saving year round. And it also ensures that the sun is up late in the summer. So you have those nice long summer evenings, where you can go to a baseball game and it's light out until, after 9 o'clock. And we like both of those things. We like having both of those. And we would lose those if we went, we could only keep one of those if we went to a system where we're either daylight saving year round or standard time year round. So it's kind of the best way to balance those two things that we like having.
So take us back before this, right? Before standardized time and time zones. What did people do?
So the oldest forms of timekeeping all rely on the position of the sun in the sky, right? You say, the sun comes up in the east-ish and it sets in the west-ish and moves across the sky over the course of the day. And you can keep track of the time by roughly where it is. If you want to be a little more precise, you can, put a stick in the ground and some markings and make yourself a sundial. And everybody just sort of associated, noon is when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. It's due south if you're in the northern hemisphere. And so you can identify that point and call that noon. That varies from place to place as you move around the Earth. So as you move from east to west, the sun will appear either higher in the sky or lower in the sky at the same instant. And so the time of noon is different in different locations. Now, that doesn't matter if the fastest transportation you have is, getting a guy on a horse or a ship sailing on the ocean, because you're never going to move far enough for it to make a significant difference. But once you start to get things like trains and then, fast boats and airplanes, then it starts to matter a lot.
And is that when it came into standardization, like at the advent of the railroad?
It's the advent of the railroads, and also the telegraph is the really big thing, because that lets you send messages instantaneously over enormous distances. And, suddenly you can be in New York City and, sending a telegram to somebody in San Francisco and getting a response back in minutes or hours, rather than, taking 3 months to get there and back. So then it really starts to matter that, the sun is much lower in the sky in San Francisco than it is in New York.
So I'm thinking the 1830s?
A little later than that, 1850s is when it starts to really become an issue. By the mid 1800s, the railroads are kind of standardizing things on their own, right? Any individual railroad company owns many miles of track. They string telegraph cables along those tracks, and they use them to sync up all of their own clocks. So they're pretty well locked in. It's around in the 1850s, the rail companies sort of start to agree to synchronize their schedules with each other. So they're taking a smallish number of local times, but most municipalities still sort of kept track of their own, noon is when the sun is highest in the sky. And then there's railroad time, which is what you need to know if you're going to get on a train here.
So it really didn't matter at that point if it's 12:15 in Charlotte, North Carolina, and 12:47 in Philadelphia.
Right. It didn't make that much difference. It's a handful of minutes, most places that you would travel over the course of a day, or, it's maybe like half an hour if you take a really long ride and arrive in a distant location. So, it's not that big a deal for most people, and people just kind of rolled with it.
So what about time zones? When did they come into standardization?
So this all happens in the 1870s into early 1880s. And it starts with a guy named Cleveland Abbey, who was one of the first weather forecasters. He's at the forerunner of the National Weather Service. And he was trying to coordinate weather observations across a huge area of the country. And also the most dramatic event was an aurora borealis that happened in 1874. And he was trying to link up measurements of many observers in many different locations were recording their observations. He was trying to piece it all together, and he found it was a miserable mess because people had, written down the time according to their local clock, and other people were on railroad time, and people were, scattered all over, and putting it all together was a real mess. So he started to lobby for establishing some sort of standardization of time, and, pitched the idea of we should just divide the country up into chunks and have them all agree to be the same time.
Pitched it to...
He started with a group called the American Metrological Society that didn't actually do very much. They were at Columbia. And so their response was the classic academic response of just creating a committee and making him the chair of it. But he was a civil servant, so he knew how to deal with that. And he responded by reaching out to people who had actual power, which included both the government and the railroads. So there was a trade organization that was the General Time Convention of Railroad Officials, which coordinated schedules of rail lines all across the country. And he got in touch with the guy who ran that and brought the idea to him, a fellow named William Allen. And he had a counterpart in Canada named Sanford Fleming, who was thinking along similar lines. And the two of them, got with the railroads and said, Allen very explicitly pitched it to the railroads as, look, if we don't do something, Congress is going to get involved, and we're not going to like whatever Congress comes up with. So we should just impose our own system of time zones, and then everybody else will go along. And that's in fact what happened. They drew up a set of time zones based on where there were boundaries between collections of railroad companies. It turns out to be pretty close to the eastern, central, mountain, western zones that we have now. And they just said, all of the railroad companies agreed to adopt this system, and then they lobbied local municipalities to sign on to their time scheme. And that ended up becoming the backbone of standardized time zones in the U.S.
And so the idea that the Eastern time zone is an hour different from Central, and Mountain is 2 hour different from East, and Pacific is 3 hour different from East, that was just kind of a, it's not to the minute, but it was an estimation.
Right. And what works out nicely, the width of those zones is approximately 1 hour in difference in the position of the sun in the sky. So that works out pretty nicely. And, everybody in the zone had to change their clocks a little bit. So he was really savvy with this plan. So he fixed the time based on the observatory in Greenwich, England.
Right,
and then
Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, and which hadn't yet been fully established, but he tied it to that because that meant that literally every major city had to change their clocks by a few minutes. So it wasn't like Washington, D.C. was being forced to adopt New York City time, or, Atlanta was being forced to adopt Boston time. Everybody had to change the clocks by a little bit. And so it was easier to put over on the big cities.
Chad, do you ever think to yourself that there's no way that we could come up with this again these days?
It would be hard to get everybody to sign on to it these days, particularly since you've got, if you look at sort of Eastern Maine to Western Indiana, it's like an hour and 10 minutes actual difference if you were going by the position of the sun. And so it's, for those people at those edges of those boundaries, it's not a small difference in the length of your day.
So daylight saving time, when does that enter the chat?
Daylight saving time comes about, starts in Europe around World War I. And it's basically, as the name suggests, it's a way to avoid having to burn energy to generate light, right? So they don't want to have to burn coal to generate electricity to power lights. So they just they shift the clock so it's daylight longer. And then people don't need to turn the lights on, and then they can save coal for the war effort. That starts during World War I, gets pretty universally adopted by the combatants, including the U.S. when we get into it. And then after the war, it kind of gets a little loose for a while. And then in World War II, everybody again does this shift of clocks in the summertime to make it light longer so that you're not using coal and oil that could go to the war effort. And then after World War II, it sticks around much more, observed a little intermittently, but, by the 1960s, they decide to, we really need to formalize this. In the mid-60s, they pass a Uniform Time Act that defines, okay, we're going to have these time zones. These are the approximate boundaries, and sets up some rules for those states on the edges as to, what can you do in terms of coming in, coming out of time zones and that sort of thing.
We're about to take a quick break, but before I do, I want to let you know all about my new book that's coming out soon. It's called America's Founding Son, John Quincy Adams, From President to Political Maverick. Pre-order your book today. It's available wherever you buy your books.
Hey everyone, it's the Jonas Brothers. This week on the podcast, Hey Jonas, we're hanging out with the one, the only, and the one, Michael Bublé.
You guys, I'm genuinely a huge fan. Like, it's funny, I made a whole thing about doing this TikTok where I got you guys to sign the guitar, but right. It was real. Like, we listen to in the car all the time. Like, it literally is hanging up with all your signatures.
Wow. I am so honored. After Kevin's recent, let's call it interesting confession about Michael, I had a feeling this wasn't going to be going away. We figured there was only one thing to do. We must invite Michael Bublé on the podcast, and we want to know what's on his Sexy Time playlist.
I did an interview, and they're like, have you heard about this Jonas Brothers thing? And they were like, what did you think of it? And I was like, well, I mean, it's reciprocal. Like, what a man got to do? What a man got to do?
We talk about Kevin's confession, Michael's reaction, and a whole lot more. Do you have a hockey rink in your house?
I do.
Our conversation with Michael Bublé is out now. Listen to Hey Jonas on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What's up, fam? I'm sports journalist Ari Chambers.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Sam J.
And we're the hosts of Everyone Watches Women's Sports, a new podcast from Together and iHeart Women's Sports.
Because let's be real, women's sports is giving us way too much to talk about these days.
The highlights, the rivalries, the breakout stars, the moments that take over your entire timeline.
And the conversations that start during the game and somehow keep going all week.
Every week, we're breaking down the biggest stories across women's sports.
We'll give you our takes, our debates, and probably a few disagreements.
We'll talk to athletes, celebrate big moments, and get into what's happening on and off the field, court, track, and beyond.
Because we're not just interested in what happened, we're interested in why everyone's talking about it. Because everyone watches women's sports. So if you're already a fan,
or you're just getting into the game, there's a seat for you right here.
Listen to Everyone Watches Women's Sports
on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Hoda Kotb, host of the podcast Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb. Okay, if you know me, you know this. I'm always searching for inspiration, for support, and useful tools to help maximize joy. So this podcast lets us uncover all of that together. We're going to have these meaningful conversations with the world's most fascinating people, like when actress Olivia Munn shared how she overcame fierce health challenges that she never saw coming.
I've gone through breast cancer and then helped my mother through breast cancer, and that was more difficult. There's a lot of people who understand postpartum depression. I was not prepared for postpartum anxiety.
Olympic champ Shawn Johnson revealed why she had no choice but to be a gymnast.
There was something about gymnastics that was intoxicating to me. It's given me a belief that we all have one of those treasures inside of us. We just have to find it.
Listen to Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My first guest is Paris Hilton, Shakira, Luke and Yerin, Samira y Gracie. I'm so excited.
On the bouncy bed.
You have surprises?
Many surprises.
Welcome to Suite 305, where the group chat comes to life. What up? Es como que una forma de decir como, hola amiga, hola mejor amiga, hola hermana, what up?
Mira, nunca lo había hablado con nadie. Excepto con mis hijos. Mis hijos sí saben.
Yes. Sé mi amante.
Uf. Uf. Qué increíble. Ya, la telenovela.
You're the only person I know that loves a yellow Starburst. It's lemonade.
No hay alguien que te falta, como que tú dices, me gustaría colaborar con esta persona.
This is Sweet 305. Listen to Sweet 305 with Lele Pons as part of My Cultura podcast network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is American History Hotline. I'm your host, Bob Crawford. Today, my guest is Chad Orzel, author of the book, A Brief History of Timekeeping, The Science of Marking Time from Stonehenge to Atomic Clocks. We're talking about springing forward and falling back. Why do we do it? And should we keep doing it? Remember, send us your questions about American history. Record them yourself using your voice memo app on your phone and email them to AmericanHistoryHotline@gmail.com. That's AmericanHistoryHotline@gmail.com. Now back to the show. Chad, let's talk about Arizona.
Okay.
Anytime I travel there and it's daylight saving time, I get messed up. What's up with Arizona?
So Arizona is one of the last holdouts in not participating in the time switch. And their argument is actually energy-based as well, right? The origin of daylight savings is trying not to spend fuel that could go to other purposes on generating artificial light. Arizona's argument these days is, look, it's really hot here. And so if people are awake, longer during daylight hours, that's more time that it's really hot. And, we have to do air conditioning and things like that, or people are just miserable. So, it doesn't save us any energy to move the clocks later in the summer. We actually want it to get dark earlier in Arizona so that the temperature goes down and things are more pleasant. The other big one that doesn't participate is Hawaii, which doesn't directly border anything else, and also they're far enough in the tropics that the change in the length of the day isn't that great to begin with. So it doesn't make as much of a difference if they push daylight back and forth. So Hawaii for a long time didn't
Is Hawaii in Pacific time zone, or they have a whole?
No, they're their own time zone.
They have their own time zone.
Yeah, I think they're 5 hours off East Coast time. So
and just to make this a note of this, the Navajo Nation within Arizona does not observe daylight saving time.
Right. And there's been, for a long time, some counties in Indiana that stay with that go with the central zone. Because even though the boundary is supposed to be the state boundary, most of the people there work in Chicago or in Springfield, and so they go with the Illinois time because that's where most of the people are working.
I got to say, I travel a lot, and I travel west a lot, and every time we hit central Tennessee, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, near there, and you get that extra hour, you really feel like you're beating time, like you're really getting something in your pocket.
I got myself in trouble one time because I was going from Georgia to Alabama to give a talk, and spending a leisurely morning, and then I realized very belatedly that there was a time change involved. Or I guess it was the other way around. I was started in Alabama and I was going to Georgia, and then I was like, oh crap, it's like a different time zone. Like I have an hour less to get there than I think I do.
So we got Hawaii, we've got Arizona, we've got parts of Indiana. Any other states not observed?
It changes fairly frequently. I don't know what the current status is. I think that's it at the moment.
Well, if you ask any politician and they have nothing else to talk about, they're going to tell you they want to get rid of it.
Sometimes if they have other things that they could be talking about and they want to not be talking about them.
I think you're actually more accurate on that.
Yeah. The issue there is, everybody says they hate it because it's inconvenient, like twice a year, right? So, there's those 2 days where you have to reset all the clocks in your house. And, that's awkward. But as I said at the beginning, it gets us two things that we like. We tried in the early 1970s during the oil crunch. There was a law passed to actually go to year-round daylight saving time, and took effect in January. And by October, when the time to roll the clocks back came around, by then they had, within 10 months, they had repealed the law, and we've moved the clocks back again. And the reason is, if you stay on the daylight saving time that we use in the summer, then sunrise in a lot of East Coast cities in December is like 9 in the morning.
Right.
And so, children waiting for the bus, the sun isn't up yet. And people hate that even more than they hate resetting their clocks. And so we went back to the system of springing forward and falling back. The real disruptive one is the spring, where you have to move the clocks forward because everybody loses an hour of sleep there, right? And that's kind of nobody likes that. The fall one people don't mind so much because there's one weekend a year when you get an extra hour of sleep, and that's kind of nice.
It messes the kids up, though.
It messes the kids and dogs. The dog is outraged every November.
We noticed.
Why is my breakfast an hour late?
Right. Our kids, it just seems to be, and you talk to the teachers at school, and it's school. It really affects younger children.
Yeah. My joke solution to this problem is that we should keep the fall back one. We should keep that one weekend a year where everybody gets an extra hour of sleep. But we should get rid of the spring forward, and instead, starting at the winter solstice, December 21st, give or take, every weekend move forward 5 minutes for 12 weeks. And that gets you back to an hour forward in the middle of March, right? And that, 5 minutes a weekend, nobody would notice that. And, the clock in my car is off by 5 minutes already. So it'd be fine. It wouldn't disrupt anything. And then you would smooth out that spring forward bit and still have the nice, I get some extra sleep tonight.
Well, Chad, most clocks these days do it themselves.
Right. You're taking your time off. If I really care what time it is, I look at my smartphone, which has the time automatically updated from the internet. Now, every time I pitch that idea, everybody who works with computers who hears it just throws things at me because they don't want to. They know what would be involved in dealing with that. But
so Chad, there is this perception that, because I remember before the most recent election, it was Senator Marco Rubio who was really on the charge. It was a bipartisan effort, but to get rid of daylight saving time, because people believe it's an outdated concept. But from what you're telling me, it's not an outdated concept. It's still applicable to our lives even in 2025.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it's a question of priorities and what are you looking for? And I think the important thing to keep in mind is, the whole system is pretty arbitrary, right? Our system of time zones relies on us pretending that it is the precise same time of day in Eastern Maine and Western Indiana. And that's, that makes no actual geographical or astronomical sense, but we do it because it's convenient. It means that, except for a handful of border regions, right, you're not going to drive anywhere and have the time of day change in a way that's going to be irritating. It's really easy to coordinate activities over, the kind of span that you can drive in a car in a day. And that works out pretty nicely and makes everybody's lives a lot easier. If we're already disrupting, the natural order of people in Eastern Maine and Western Indiana enough to arbitrarily assign them the same time, it's not that much more of a disruption to have to change the clocks every now and then. And then you get those nice long summer evenings, and then it's not pitch dark when you arrive at work in December mornings, and everybody's probably happier for it.
Looking at this from a historical perspective, daylight saving time, time zones, they are part of the rise of capitalism, right? They were, it was business who created these, right? American businesses, American industry created this.
Yeah, I said it's adopted through the quintessential American process of having large corporations lobby for it and get the system adopted that way.
Well, was there anything around the same time happening in Europe? Were they asking for this? Because is this an American innovation that spread worldwide?
No, the Europeans were thinking along similar lines, and there's actually a major conference in the mid 1880s that's held in Washington D.C. Where they bring together representatives of all the major world powers and talk about we should standardize times sort of globally. Most European countries had already, within their own borders, set up standard time. They just made a time zone that is their own country. And then, there was some coordination among nations that shared borders and so on. So there was this move to standardize everything in the 1880s. The big sticking point ended up being, where do you put the zero? What do you call zero longitude, where, and then everybody references their clocks to that. And the two big contenders were Greenwich, England, and Paris, France. And Paris had sort of the claim of having an older, more prestigious observatory that had been in the business longer. The British counter-argument was that like 75% of world shipping used maps that were made in the UK. And that ended up carrying the day. The US had, because of William Allen, already synced their clocks to something that was based on the time in Greenwich. And so we were fine with it. And so went along. And so the French got outvoted because most people were using British nautical maps anyway. And it was just easier to go with that and use the time based on Greenwich.
Well, Chad, where can people find your work?
I have a Substack on, under my own name on a lot of things. The books are available wherever books are sold.
I've been speaking with Chad Orzel. He's author of the book, A Brief History of Timekeeping, The Science of Marking Time from Stonehenge to Atomic Clocks. He's also an associate professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Union College in Schenectady, New York. Chad, thank you so much. It's been great.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. You've been listening to American History Hotline, a production of iHeart Podcasts and Scratch Track Productions. The show's executive producer is James Morrison. Our executive producers from iHeart are Jordan Runtall and Jason English. Original music composed by me, Bob Crawford. Please keep in touch. Our email is americanhistoryhotline@gmail.com. If you like the show, please tell your friends and leave us a review in Apple Podcasts. I'm your host, Bob Crawford. Feel free to hit me up on social media to ask a history question or to let me know what you think of the show. You can find me at Bob Crawford Base. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week.
What's up, fam? It's sports journalist Ari Chambers.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Sam J.
And we're the hosts of Everyone Watches Women's Sports, a new podcast from Together.
We're breaking down the biggest headlines, the viral moments, and the stories everyone's talking about across women's sports.
From game-changing performances to culture-shifting conversations, we'll give you our takes, our debates, and a few laughs along the way.
Because everyone watches women's sports. Listen to Everyone Watches Women's Sports
on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Joy is essential and it's also elusive. But now there's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Joy 101. It's a new podcast hosted by me, Hoda Kotb. If you're craving inspiration to maximize your joy, tune into these candid, uplifting, and moving on-air chats. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Joy 101, and listen now. Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb is presented by CVS.
My first guest is Paris Hilton, Shakira, Luke, and Yerin. Have surprises?
Many surprises.
Welcome to the Sweet 305 podcast, where the group chat comes to life.
What up? You're the only person I know that loves a yellow Starburst. It's lemonade.
This is Sweet 305. Here, oversharing is encouraged. Listen to Sweet 305 with Lele Pons on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's the Jonas Brothers. This week on the podcast, Hey Jonas, we're hanging out with Michael Bublé. After Kevin's recent interesting confession about Michael, we figured there's only one thing to do. We must invite Michael Bublé on the podcast, and we want to know what's on his Sexy Time playlist.
You know, I did an interview, and they're like, have you heard about this Jonas Brothers thing? And they were like, what did you think of it? And I was like, well, I mean, it's reciprocal.
We talk about Kevin's confession, Michael's reaction, and a whole lot more. Our conversation with Michael Bublé is out now. Listen to Hey Jonas on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.